Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special webinar titled From Lackluster to Blockbuster, How CTV Gives B2B Brands a Better Video Ad Platform. My name is Claudia Tirico, and I'm the editor of Demand Gen Report, and I will be your moderator for this presentation. And before we kick things off, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping slides, and then we'll get right into the presentation. All right, for those of you who are new to Demand Gen Report, welcome. We are an online media company publishing everything from daily news, a weekly email newsletter, special reports, original research, and a rich menu of additional resources. So if you haven't done so already, join more than 75,000 subscribers to our weekly newsletter by checking out demandgenreport.com today. And then, of course, during and after today's session, please follow along and share your thoughts and feedback with us on Twitter and LinkedIn. You can see all of our link, all of our handles are right here on your screen. So we look forward to connecting with you on social. I also want to take this time to kind of let you in on a little secret. Maybe you already know about it, maybe you're new to it, but our B2B MX podcast actually revisits some of the best sessions from our B2B MX and B2B SMX events, allowing you to listen or re-listen if you were actually there in person to key marketing insights on the go and wherever you are. I'm actually the co-host of the podcast with my colleague Kelly, so you'll hear from us on there. Like I said, we have a bunch of replays of different high-rated sessions from our events, plus original interviews and a lot more. So please check it out. We're available on your podcast player of choice. And now for this presentation, we're going to be using the On24 platform. So during the presentation, you can pretty much access everything you need on this toolbar that we have mapped out on this slide right here. First things first, we encourage you to ask our presenter questions today. And to do so, simply click the Q&A widget at the top right corner of your screen. Today's session will run about 30 to 35 minutes with a few extra minutes of Q&A following. Or if we don't get to your question live right now, we will definitely, follow up with answers via email. So submit those questions at any time. And then right below that Q&A widget, you'll find some additional resources that we've made available for you. On the top left corner, like I mentioned, you could get access right to our B2B MX podcast right there. And then in addition to joining the conversation online and submitting your questions, we also please welcome to let us know how we're doing. So we put together a very brief survey that will automatically launch once this webinar session ends. You can pull up and complete the survey at any time during this webinar by clicking on the survey icon that we have circled at the bottom of the slide so you can't miss it. So please, before signing off today, take a moment to fill out this quick questionnaire. Finally, the session is being recorded and all attendees will receive an archive link to the presentation to go back and review. All right, well, now I'm really excited to introduce our featured speaker for today. We have Ali Haeri, VP of Marketing at Mountain. Ali leads all marketing and communications efforts at Mountain. He is also an instructor at UCLA Extension, teaching marketing and advertising courses in the Business and Management Certification Program. Previously, he served as a principal product designer at Symantec, working on the Norton security line of consumer software. And then prior to that, he oversaw digital marketing for the digital media services division of Verizon. I've been lucky enough to see Ali speak at our events. He was actually one of our keynote speakers at our Boston event a few months ago. So you guys are in for a real treat. And with that, Ali, it's great to have you here. I'm going to pass things over to you to kick things off. All yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Claudia. I appreciate it. And thanks to everybody who's tuning in from the DGR community. I'm a big fan. And something I like kind of mentioning to people when I do these presentations is that I'm your peer. I don't do a lot of these. I tend to choose to do these presentations only when I'm kind of talking to my own peers. So I love talking to other B2B marketers because we all experience the same challenges as B2B marketers. And what we'll talk about today is a new opportunity for B2B marketers. It happens to be Mountain, the platform that I market for a living. But I don't want this to feel like some sort of vendor briefing. This is really just me as a fellow B2B marketer letting you know about this channel that we've been using, and we'll show some examples of precisely how we're using this this channel as B2B marketers. So it should be really interesting to take a look at how it's actually being deployed. So what I really fundamentally would like to discuss today is the fact that, in my opinion, B2B, or I should say CTV has arrived for B2B marketers. For many reasons, television advertising has been out of reach for B2B advertisers. And really the story here is that it's arrived. It's now a channel that looks, feels, and functions like the channels that B2B marketers are used to using. And again, today what we'll talk about, both strategically and also tactically, how to actually take advantage of television advertising as a B2B marketer. And so what we'll talk about specifically is just the accessibility of TV advertising specifically to B2B brands. And everything we'll talk about today is precisely for the B2B audience. Obviously, there's a great use case for D2C advertisers to be using connected television advertising. That's for another time and place. Today, we'll just precisely talk about the use case of B2B advertisers using television advertising. Then I want to talk about some things that I'm sure as B2B advertisers you may be thinking about. You know, TV advertising sounds appealing, but there may be some constraints that you're up against. First being actually having the video assets to use to advertise on TV. There's a solution around that. Then I'd like to also talk about some tips and some considerations when you're actually producing creative specifically for TV. And then finally, and more tactically, I'd love to share some insights in terms of what should you think about when you're actually constructing these campaigns and how to measure them and assess the performance of these campaigns as well. So a lot to get through. Now, the first thing that I want to start is reiterating the point that I made at the top here, which is TV is the next performance channel. We really mean that. And, you know, for B2B advertisers, they never really took linear TV advertising seriously. Linear TV advertising being traditional cable or broadcast television advertising. The reason for that is it really kind of missed the mark on the things that are most important for B2B advertisers. Targeting is essential for B2B advertising. We want to laser target our audience to make sure that there's no wasted spend reaching people who are irrelevant to our target market. And measurement, you know, it's incredibly vague being able to understand the impact of linear TV advertising. Whereas in the world of B2B marketing, we are obsessed with granular tracking of performance of any channel that we run advertisements on. And so certainly we bring that same expectation to television as well. In video creative, for a lot of B2B companies, no matter what your budget is, not all B2B advertisers are in a position where they have a relationship with a creative agency, or maybe they don't have the budget to actually engage with a creative agency to produce creative that would work well on linear TV. But that also has changed, and we'll spend some time discussing the video creative aspect of things as well. Now, CTV, connected television, or in other words, streaming TV advertising, neatly addresses all of the shortcomings that we've seen with linear TV advertising. First of all, it's less expensive, and it's less expensive in a variety of ways. One is you don't really have the upfront commitment that a lot of linear TV advertising has, where you almost certainly working through an agency do a media buy where it's front-loaded with ad spend. CTV is pay-as-you-go. It's programmatic advertising fundamentally, and so to that end, it's much more easier to manage from a budget standpoint. But also, you know, from a targeting standpoint, it makes it cost efficient as well, because all of your impressions are going towards your target audience. And, you know, depending on the platform that you're using, you can get some pretty impressive granular targeting of your target prospects, whether it be a prospecting campaign where you're reaching business professionals of a certain seniority or job function, or you're using first-party data where you're retargeting on television, or maybe you're running an ABM campaign where you're uploading a list and you're trying to target your list with television advertising. The idea here is that there's not any wasted impressions. You're really just advertising on television to your target audience, and so to that end, it's inherently cost-effective. And so CTV, another big consideration here, this is something that I find myself sharing with my peers the most, is it's just highly differentiated. A lot of marketers see television advertising as a bit of a holy grail. It's the most prestigious ad unit for most marketers. And again, it's just generally been inaccessible to B2B marketers just for cost reasons. But in this case, since CTV is accessible, and since we're still in the early stages of connected television as an ad channel, it's a great way to just immediately pull away from your competitive set with ads that are really memorable on a channel that, again, has a lot of prestige attached to it as well. More importantly, and really speaking the language of B2B marketers here, is that CTV is great at generating new demand. And the idea here is both related to the fact that, again, the targeting is efficient. We're targeting precisely the people that we want to show ads to, but also the ad experience. Consider the experience of the user on the receiving end of the advertisement. We're talking about unskippable ads. I'm sure many of you all stream television. And the idea here is those sort of unskippable ads that you see during commercial breaks on the shows that you watch on television. On Mountain's platform, we see over a 98% completion rate on the ads that we serve on our platform. So it shows that the audience is engaged. They're not bailing on the ads because, again, you need to watch the advertisements to continue watching the programming. And again, it's also high impact. Back to that last point I made on the previous slide, it's just highly differentiated. You're in a limited ad pod. The ad load on streaming TV is less than that of linear TV advertising. And again, this is a D2C marketer's game right now. And so there's room for B2B marketers to stand out. Just by virtue of advertising on TV, it's going to be noticeable to the end user. And again, the other consideration here too is that B2B marketers are reaching prospects that watch television too. This is the really important consideration, is that we constantly just sort of convince ourselves that we need to be dependent on LinkedIn and Google search advertising just because we're targeting our prospects during business hours. But those same prospects are the ones who are cutting loose at night and watching television like every other prospect out there. And so that's a great way to stand out and generate demand. If you're selling ERP software, that's not something your prospects are typically seeing advertisements for on television when they're just watching TV in the evening. And so just by virtue of having that advertisement on in a really targeted manner to the person who precisely needs to see your ad, it's going to be really effective for you. And the other thing too is that there's this concept of generating demand and also capturing demand. And so when you kind of consider that, there are channels that are good at either one of those things. And so, paid search is great at capturing existing demand. People are using search engines to do some sort of product-related research. And the beauty of search advertising is the fact that you can seize that moment of truth that people are using that tool to search for a thing. And in that precise moment, you can show an ad for your product or service that's highly relevant. CTV works well in both ways. It could certainly generate new demand in the case of prospecting campaigns, as we talked about with the different types of audiences that we can target. But again, it could also capture existing demand too with the first-party data that you can use as the basis for targeting in your campaigns. So something that we do as advertisers, as others do as well, is we use our other channels, because we're using CTV in concert with a wide variety of paid media channels. We use our other channels to just drive traffic to our website that fills up our retargeting pools for our television retargeting campaigns, which again is just a really fascinating experience for the end user to be able to be doing some sort of research where they act on some of our advertisements and then be followed up with advertising on television. Now, an important point to make here is the fact that B2B doesn't need to be boring. Most of my career has been in B2B marketing. And one thing that I've sort of observed is that a lot of B2B marketers just go into their jobs assuming that there's a level of professionalism and seriousness that's requisite with doing B2B marketing. And that never quite made sense to me, why that was the case. Back to that point of, B2B marketers off the clock are streaming TV like everybody else, so why not show them ads? In this context, the same point stands, which is B2B marketers have a sense of humor and are capable of exhibiting any other type of emotion that you may try to evoke out of folks that are seeing your advertisements. So take advantage of that. And so we certainly do that. For those of you that are familiar with Mountain's advertising, I suspect most people on this call have probably been targeted with our own television ads before. What you'll notice is that we don't take ourselves too seriously. Another thing that a lot of people know about Mountain is that our chief creative officer is Ryan Reynolds, famous actor. And just to get it out of the way, yes, Ryan really works at Mountain. It's completely real. It's not some celebrity endorsement. One of the things that Ryan's really taught us is how can we actually push the envelope as a B2B brand and do interesting things, make people laugh, but still work towards all of our goals. And that's sort of the relationship that I have with Ryan and the creative team here is they focus on just creating fun, creative, that's memorable and amusing, but still effective in terms of conveying what it is that we do. And my responsibility is making sure that we measure it and that it still honors all of our demand generation goals, among many others. And so what I want to share with you all is an example of that. This was an ad that we had created. It's actually an award-winning ad. We received a couple of awards already for this advertisement. And it's a great example of how a B2B brand can be interesting. And so in this ad, what we have is a product demo. This is a classic advertising dilemma for a lot of B2B marketers. How do you show off your product in an interesting way? Well, here's how we did it. Ryan had this idea of, why don't we have Steve-O from Jackass actually do the demo of the Mountain platform? But before he starts the demo, let's have him eat a Carolina Reaper pepper, which is the hottest pepper in the world that a human can consume. And hilarity ensues, and I'll actually roll the full ad. So it's a couple of minutes long, but I promise you it's hilarious. And you'll actually learn about Mountain's platform. That's the beauty of all of this. So why don't we take a look, and then on the back end of it, we'll discuss it some more.
Hi, I'm Ryan Reynolds, and welcome to my Mountain television software demo stunt.
Let's be clear, there's a full medical team.
Milk, that ad one more time.
I got it. When's it gonna melt out?
About 10 or 15 minutes.
How long's it been?
You got ice cubes?
I've never had an experience like that. Did I get the lines for you?
You got the lines perfectly. I'm so sorry. Today, we'll learn why Mountain is the hardest working software in television by demonstrating how brands, big and small, are using it to transform their marketing. Of course, that sounds like it could be pretty boring. So I thought, what if someone ate a Carolina Reaper right before doing the demo?
I thought I was here to promote my small business using Mountain's platform.
Oh, you are. You are, but we'd also like to see you eat the peppers.
Only because I love you.
I love you too, Steve-O.
Okay.
There it is.
Wow, okay, all right.
It's over 1.5 million units on the Scoville heat index.
Yeah, it's the hottest thing you can legally put in your mouth.
Yeah.
I'm chewed, I will now swallow. Woo! Swallowing it, I can tell that.
Yeah, there it is.
Happened. Okay.
All right, well, I think we should start. You know, Mountain is so easy that Steve here, he can flight his own TV ad. So I think you just take it away, Steve.
Mountain is a self-serve platform that makes putting an ad on television as easy as paid search or social. So it's the first platform to turn connected TV into performance TV.
This is great. Great start. How you feeling right now? You okay? Everything good?
Please don't interrupt me. Okay. I just ate a thing.
Yes, you did.
Oh, God. Let's say I want to run an ad for my delicious hot sauce. Steve-O's hot sauce for your butthole.
Wait, hold on a second. Is that actually what's called?
Oh, yeah. I just go on the Mountain platform. The first thing you'll notice is how simple it is. It looks beautiful. It was probably very hard to code. But God, my whole throat is on fire like I just drank lava. Unlike most TV buying, everything starts with an audience.
It does. You got this.
So if I want to target people who like hot sauce, Mountain makes it super easy. There are over 60,000 audiences already built in. Plus you can bring your own first-party data.
Data, usually.
Okay. And you can also target by demographics and geography.
Do you mind if I drink this ice cold?
Oh, you, Satan. Once you set your audience, you can choose your budget. Mountain makes it easy by letting you spend as little as $15,000.
That's it?
Then I select my goal. I can choose return on ad spend, cost per acquisition, cost per visit, or cost per completed view. My throat is closing. Mountain Tech makes it all very easy to track. Lastly, we need to upload the video onto the platform. A simple drag and drop, like we're all used to. I got it. I can't.
Milk. I'll take it over. Mountain System automatically routes the videos through networks to get them improved. And in many cases, your ads can be running on TV within hours. And as it's running, you can see how your ad or ads are performing in real time. Now see, the Mountain System automatically optimizes. So if one ad is performing better in certain places, it'll automatically serve that ad more in that area. Honestly, Mountain makes literally everything about running an ad on TV simpler and more effective. But it does absolutely nothing for the burning hot sun in his mouth. So just go to mountain.com to learn more.
It's my throat.
Great job, Steve-O. Big round of applause for Steve-O, ladies and gentlemen. It's your Mountain demo right there. All right, let's go to take 2. Visit mountain.com to schedule a demo today.
Great. Well, there we have it. You know, growing up watching Jackass as a teenager, I never thought that that man would help me sell enterprise technology one day. But this is where we are. The point of that ad, again, just to show you, is that you know, at the end of the day, it's still a product demo, and it actually conveys precisely what Mountain does. I could tell you, as the marketing leader for the company that used that ad, that was an incredibly effective asset that we had. We realized a lot of success just from that one campaign. And again, the idea, the concept of the ad is quite simple, and you know, fundamentally, it's a product demo. It's just an incredibly humorous and somewhat bizarre one. But what I want to talk about right now is how we use video. Maybe this can be helpful in some sort of way. This is also a neat way to let you know about some of the capabilities that Mountain offers folks that I think B2B advertisers are sort of stand to benefit particularly well. So for starters, we run a ton of video advertising across a wide variety of advertising channels. One thing that we notice is that not all video works on all channels, and so we've been recently advertising on new channels like TikTok and Snap, but we don't use the sort of more traditional B2B video creative when advertising on those channels. We sort of save those channels for what we deem to be a pretty interesting video. But that doesn't mean that we're holding out for a celebrity to be inside a video, but just anything that may seem a little bit more interesting and contextual to the experience of a B2B marketer that may be on Snap or TikTok. And that repurposing is also just valuable for us because you know, you create one bit of creative and you want to extend its reach as much as possible. This is something that we find ourselves recommending a lot to advertisers that are using a service of ours called QuickFrame, which is don't go through all this trouble of producing a creative for a single channel. Do whatever you can at the time that the video is being produced to reformat it for a variety of channels to really maximize the success of the video campaign. Now, an important consideration for B2B advertisers is that creative does not need to be a barrier. I suspect a lot of you who are watching this right now are kind of nodding your heads with regards to all of the aspects of CTV as a channel, and you certainly see the value of it potentially as a performance marketing channel, but you may be telling yourself, yeah, but I just don't have a TV commercial. And you know, the point there is that there's a lot of different things that you can do to be resourceful in this case. First, probably the most obvious place to start is to go to your social team. See if your social team has been publishing video on social channels or using them in paid social campaigns in instances where there's a video ad unit. In a lot of instances, there's something there that can certainly be used for TV. Now, with a platform like Mountain, you have to be mindful of the specs for the TV campaigns. I'd say the biggest consideration is having a 15-second or a 30-second advertisement ready. So if you do already have some sort of creative that's lying around that the social team's been using, the most important consideration is just making sure that you cut it down to 30 or 15 if it isn't already. You know, there's some other considerations too. Say your social team doesn't have any video, but you still are interested. There's a couple of other things that you can do. Now, this part's going to sound a little salesy, but I just think it's useful for everybody to understand that this sort of program exists. And that's something that Mountain has called Creative as a Subscription, or CAS as we call it. Creative as a Subscription allows advertisers to bundle creative with their media spend at no additional cost. So essentially, in exchange for an annual commitment, what Mountain will do is ensure that you get your creative refreshed on an ongoing basis. And so we have creative capabilities inside Mountain, as I'll explain in just a moment, that allows for advertisers to just receive a steady drumbeat of refreshed creative on an ongoing basis. Now, this idea of refresh is really important, and it may not be obvious, but one thing that we know, we absolutely know at Mountain, is that there are absolutely diminishing returns on video creative. And you've probably noticed this with video advertising on any other channel, really, which is if you just run the same video ad indefinitely, that performance is going to diminish, especially in the case of B2B, where we're targeting smaller audience sizes than we would on for D2C advertisers who have much broader target markets. Then your audience is going to get exhausted. Exhausted of the advertising that you're running even more quickly. And so, having creative refreshed at worst every quarter is really important for advertisers. So, in the case of CAS, you know, in exchange for an annual commitment, our team will worry about working with you to just get that creative produced and handed over to you. And you can also take that creative that you get through the CAS program and use it for video advertising on other channels as well. Now, I want to talk about QuickFrame for a second. QuickFrame is really the creative engine behind CAS. But QuickFrame is also a standalone marketplace. I just want to talk about that for a second. QuickFrame is a company that Mountain acquired at the start of this year. QuickFrame is a marketplace that matches, in this case, B2B advertisers, but really anybody who needs a video with creators. QuickFrame has a network of over 5,000 creators all over the world. a really stringent process of qualifying creators to be a part of the marketplace. And really, the way it works is you just kind of come to QuickFrame, you fill out a creative brief. QuickFrame will match you with a creator that can execute on your vision, and you go through an iterative process. And the great thing about QuickFrame is probably the two big considerations that you may have. One is that it's quick. The turnaround is quite fast. A lot of advertisers get their creative within just, depending on what the scope of what you're looking for, but just a couple of weeks. And it's also really cost effective as well. It's a technology platform too. So you just fill out the brief, and then you'll iterate. You'll actually see iterations of your creative come to life and correspond directly with the creator on the QuickFrame platform. And what's just great about this is the fact that a lot of advertisers just turn to QuickFrame to get quick turn creative. They can be highly prescriptive about what they want to see in their video advertising. And they're just always impressed with the quality of the creators in the network. And so the beauty of this, specifically for B2B marketers, is you don't need a big fancy engagement with a creative agency and all of the costs associated with that and time to actually get TV creative or creative for any other use case that you may have. It's not just advertisers that are using QuickFrame, but also people who need training videos or, any other type of promotional video, maybe not necessarily just for the TV advertising use case. It's really just an incredibly valuable platform for a lot of different advertisers. And so we certainly encourage it for B2B marketers who are starting with no video creative but want to get something up and running very quickly. Now, some tips specifically for the B2B audience as you're commissioning your creative or creating it yourself. First is crafting a story around pain points. This may seem obvious or it may not. Maybe not, because we notice a lot of video creative sort of misses the mark on this point. But in the case of B2B specifically, just focusing on pain points is important. Something tangential to that is play into the audience targeting. One of the first campaigns that we ran with Ryan after we acquired Ryan's agency was a campaign where Ryan is speaking straight to the camera to marketers, because we knew that the ad would only be shown to marketing professionals. And so he had that space to just sort of address that audience directly. And so it's something that we recommend you do as well as you're crafting that story and orienting it around pain points. Think about the audiences that you're going to be targeting in this campaign and try to speak to them as directly as possible. Another thing is just stirring emotions. Obviously, B2B marketers who are evaluating products are seeking utility in some sort of way. And so tap into that. Be as helpful, show off how helpful your product is as much as possible, rather than tapping into something out of the B2C playbook of fear and pleasure. These sorts of emotions play better with consumer products than they necessarily would with B2B advertising. And finally, just limit the buzzwords. Just stick to the terms that you know that your customers know. And again, this plays into that previous point of go into this process thinking about the audiences that you're going to target. Like I would recommend going into a platform like Mountain and see the audiences that you want to target and let that play a part in the creative process. And again, plan your creative accordingly from there. Creative management, if you're in a position where you have multiple creative, that's fantastic. And a platform like Mountain is really conducive to sort of maintaining a library of different creative that you can sort of activate depending on what your campaign is, what the season may be. But it's good to be able to have a single source to manage all of your different options. And then, I think this stuff is particularly important or meaningful to a lot of B2B marketers who spend a lot of their time doing analysis of campaigns, but really just, developing an understanding of what's working. A platform like Mountain is all about measurement and attribution. And so really rely on features that allow you to understand the effectiveness of creative. And what I mean here is specifically in this, I'm speaking the language of any performance marketer, is look at the conversion performance of creative. You could certainly do that with television advertising, which is fascinating. And also site visit rate, like look at which variation of your creative is driving the most visits to your website. And something I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but A/B testing. You could do native A/B testing in a platform like Mountain, which again is the right way to approach advertising in on television, which really is just a thing that's nearly impossible to do on linear TV advertising. But in this case, you could do a neat A/B test where you're segregating your traffic based off of two variations of your creative to see which one performs the best, and then just use that going forward. And we've actually seen some advertisers utilize that feature for linear TV advertising, where they'll roll out variations on connected TV, and then whatever wins the head-to-head is the version of the creative that they use on linear. And I just discussed A/B testing, so we'll just kind of skip this point here. So in conclusion, I want to reiterate a couple of the points that we made here. First is that CTV is a performance marketing channel. It's certainly arrived as that. With a platform like Mountain, you'll get all the visibility that you need to really kind of grade the work of it as a performance marketing channel. And, as a marketing leader that has connected television as part of our channel mix from a paid media standpoint, it's a really valuable channel for us. And in any given month, CTV drives about a quarter of all of our website visits, which is really impressive. And it's coming in after paid search as our biggest conversion driver as well. Next, video advertising. Obviously, it's accessible to B2B advertisers, even if you're in a situation where you don't have creative ready to go. There's, as I discussed, a variety of options for procuring creative, for running on CTV. And we talked about some ideas on how to actually do that, either tapping into what you're doing on social, or utilizing some of these capabilities like QuickFrame, or being a task customer with Mountain. And then finally, just from like a tactical standpoint, this channel is no different than the other performance marketing channels that you use. So go into it with this mindset of testing it and measuring it, tracking the attribution of the performance that's come from your TV campaigns. And I feel really confident that B2B marketers are really going to embrace connected television advertising. It checks all the boxes that we really need as B2B advertisers. So with that, I'll open it up to questions, and Claudia will jump back in here too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Ali. That was a great presentation. I always love hearing about CTV and the benefits for B2B companies. I'm actually starting to see a lot of B2B like software ads in my rotation too.
Same.
So it's definitely coming up there for sure.
Yeah.
You sparked some really great questions. But before I get to those, everyone, I just want to remind you all once again to please share your thoughts and feedback with us before logging off today. You can click that survey icon at the bottom of the toolbar, or just wait for this session to end and it'll automatically launch, okay? All right, let's get to those questions. First one. Mountain is in a unique position for a B2B brand with access to celebrity talent. Can other B2B businesses still succeed even if they don't have a celebrity in their product demos?
Yeah, this is one of the most common questions I get from my B2B peers, is exactly that. The answer is absolutely. And a couple of points on that is, I actually had a friend at a great B2B marketing platform reach out and ask about, should I be, enlisting the help of a celebrity endorser? I said no, don't do it. The reason for that is, just tactically speaking, as a B2B marketer, audience targeting is always the most important thing. If I can get a campaign in front of the right prospects, then just a compelling message does the trick. We like to have fun and do really interesting things when we have that captive audience, but really it's just a compelling message. I'm on the receiving end of a lot of B2B marketing, and it doesn't really matter to me who's in the creative. It's just more important, are they meeting my need at that moment of truth, at that time that I actually need that need met? And so that's always the most important thing. We run a lot of creative that doesn't have Ryan involved, and that performs really well as well. We're sensitive to just not throwing Ryan in every touch point that we have for obvious reasons. And so absolutely not. You don't need a celebrity involved. And we have a lot of B2B advertisers that are absolutely thriving with television advertising, just focusing on hitting pain points that their target market has, and that's absolutely enough.
Awesome. All right, next question. What is one surprising thing you've learned from your own CTV strategy?
Yeah, I think the dependence of it as a performance marketing channel, and this is something that I got to really kind of be crystal clear on. It sounds like a really convenient talking point in selling the Mountain platform, but I'm really legitimately kind of speaking to everybody as a peer when I say this. We had a moment once where we shut off the performance TV, the Mountain channel, for a week to kind of turn over new creative on the channel. So our paid media team just kind of paused the channel while we cycle in new creative. In that week, we did our sort of weekly metrics meeting, and we noticed this huge drop-off in site traffic. And it was just immediately attributable to running television advertising. It's a huge traffic driver. And so the most surprising thing for me, legitimately, bizarrely, as a marketing leader at Mountain, has been my dependence on Mountain. We, as I mentioned earlier, over 25% of traffic to our website is attributed to our TV campaigns. And again, it's our biggest lead driver after paid search. Transparently, paid search is our biggest one. But after that, it's the TV campaigns that we're running. And so it's been crazy to have this level of a dependence on TV. It's been especially strange that it's our own platform. Everyone kind of dog foods their own product, but this has been kind of crazy how dependent we've been on it. And that's part of the reason why I'm so confident to kind of get in front of my peers every chance I get to say, hey, this is something you can absolutely use as a B2B marketer. And this is something I mentioned at the B2B SMX conference, which is we all work out of the same playbook. I'm no better. We're doing LinkedIn ads, we're doing ABM campaigns, we're optimizing our website for conversion rate, everything everyone else is doing. But we're all just desperate for that one thing that we can do that just sort of creates a little bit of distance from us and our competitors. And this can certainly be one of those things for B2B marketers.
All right. All right, next question. If I sign up for CAS, are creative refreshes included within the offering?
Yeah. That was the point that I made earlier, which was in exchange for an annual commitment. So you basically, you'll kind of go into the platform, still spending as you go, but you're kind of locked in for at least a year. What's going to happen is, depending on your spend level, your customer success manager is going to identify the cadence that you'll get new creative. So for most customers, that means they're going to get a quarterly refresh of their creative, where every quarter you'll work with our team, create a creative brief, make sure it's on brand, of course. We'll get a creator from the QuickFrame platform to create new TV creative for you. And again, the thing here is, this is a great performance consideration. We see an absolute correlation between the success of campaigns and the freshness of the creative that they're running. And so that's really the point of CAS, is to make sure that you're in it for the long term, and we will ensure that you will get creative on an ongoing basis to make sure that your campaigns perform as best they can on an ongoing basis.
Cool. All right, I think we have time for one more question. How often do you recommend refreshing your CTV creative?
Yeah, really, I mentioned earlier, I think at worst quarterly. Even for advertisers that have more refined target audiences that are smaller, what's going to happen again is you're actually going to get creative fatigue quicker than a D2C advertiser who has a very large target audience. If your total universe of target is 500,000 people in the target list, as opposed to a D2C advertiser where it's 20 million people, you're gonna exhaust your creative far quicker. And so for that reason, actually, B2B marketers need to be even more mindful of the fact that creative needs to be refreshed more frequently because of that kind of consideration. And so, again, I'd say quarterly is probably the sweet spot for a lot of B2B marketers. Going beyond that's going to be tough. You're just going to see diminished returns because you've likely already shown your ads to your target audience a couple of times. I'm talking in the context of a B2B advertiser who has a pretty refined list that they're targeting. Now, on the flip side of that, we see some advertisers that actually they've kind of figured out a way to kind of refresh their creative relatively quickly. We have some advertisers that do it every month. And again, there's a direct correlation to the freshness of the ad and the performance we see in campaigns. And so they maintain a very high level of performance in doing that. To me, that's sort of conducive to certain consumer products or businesses where it might make sense to do that. Retail, where there's constantly different kind of sales activity going on and seasonality, might make sense to do that. But for B2B marketing, I'd probably say quarterly is best.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. But like I mentioned earlier, if we did not get to your question live, don't worry. We will follow up with answers via email. All right. Well, that's a wrap on us. Thank you again to Ali for such a great presentation. And thank you to all of our attendees for taking the time to join us today. We will have this session ready for on-demand viewing literally any minute. You have your link right on the screen right there, but it'll, of course, arrive in your inbox momentarily. So thank you again, everyone, and take care.
Thank you.